going to share something with you. That might put me in a very negative light, yeah.
Relationships are not my forte.
See if someone grabbed up my wife or something completely different ballgame.
I'll walk away from here, and this has been like a therapy session.
Hello and welcome to Raw, the Fight Within podcast with me, Kugan Cassius. I'm absolutely delighted. Been a long time coming to be joined by Mr. Ray Winston.
How you doing?
How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm kind of trying to de-stress at the minute after Christmas and the New Year and all that, and family and all that kind of stuff. Every year I say never again. But by the time the 12 months is up, I've forgotten about that, and we do it again, and you go through the same pain, the same joy as well, every year. I don't think I want to do it again next year.
But all in all, had a good Christmas, though?
Everyone did, yeah. I've done a lot of the cooking and a lot of cuddling, you know, stemming the tears and all that kind of stuff, and it was lovely. You know, it's family, it's what it is. And it's quite raw sometimes, and it's quite loud sometimes, but it's what it is, and that's what family's all about, I guess, at the end of the day, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I haven't really kind of gone into the basis of what this podcast is, because I wanted you to kind of have an open mind as we talk, rather than overthink everything. And
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
not saying you do that, just thought it was better to do it a little bit blank. So we're going to start quite easy, and then you'll kind of get the gist as we go on.
All right.
So obviously, everyone knows, aside from your film career, your early days were very heavily involved on the boxing scene. What was your first ever memories of boxing period?
Well, the first club I boxed for when I was a kid, I suppose I was about 12, 13, was New Enterprise in Tottenham. Because I lived out in Enfield. We'd moved from Plaistow, because my dad had a fruit and veg shop in Bush Hill Parade near Enfield. And so my mum, without my dad knowing, bought an house. And at the time, she could buy an house for about £4,500. So my mum, who was kind of the thinker in the family, went and bought an house. So we kind of moved out the East End. And so, as a lot of East End, South London families do, it's all about boxing and about family, you know, where I suppose other sides of the country are about football and family, you know. But you boxed in my family. My dad boxed, my grandfather boxed, his dad boxed, and cousins boxed. So I guess it's that kind of vibe. And I remember going to the municipal baths in Tottenham, and Henry Cooper was in there this night, and we had some good fighters out of that club. And even though I was a kid, we used to go along to the shows and watch the older boys fight and all that kind of thing. And I remember going up to Henry Cooper and asking him his autograph, and he must have been busy because he didn't give me his autograph.
Didn't give it to you?
No, my dad said, "Fuck him." He said he might ask for yours one day, and that was my first memory of kind of going to a boxing show. You know, as it transpired, I went from there to a closer club to where I lived, was Enfield Boxing Club, and then from there I went to the Repton. I kept getting drawn back to the East End because as a kid, all my mates that I left there, I wanted to go and see, you know, and that can be disappointing at times because you go back and they don't remember you, you know. But I went back to the Repton, and that's really where I really started to enjoy boxing. I was never going to be a fighter, you know. I wasn't good enough, and probably not physically I wasn't good enough, but mentally as well, you know. But I got to a good standard, you know. I had quite a lot of fights. So my great memories are boxing at York Hall. I boxed at York Hall maybe 13, 14, 15 times, you know. And there's not quite an atmosphere anywhere else than the York Hall, you know. So I boxed in the ABAs there. I boxed club boxing there, you know, and done pretty well there. Do you know I boxed there one night against a kid. I'm trying to think of the kid's name. It'll come to me in a minute. But probably boxed the best I've ever boxed in my life. And I was moving, I was a counter puncher, you know, as a lot of Repton fighters are. And I jabbed this kid's head off all night. I was slipping him and bum, bum. And I looked and felt really good. You know those moments in life when you feel you've hit it? You found that moment where you've probably reached your peak, actually, probably downhill from then on. And I boxed this kid's head off. And it came to the decision at the end of the fight. And you know, the Repton were well known. You know, everyone would say, "Oh, you boxing, you're a Repton boxer. He's going to get the decision." And I never got the decision. I lost on a majority. And I thought, I knew I'd won. And not only just won, I didn't nick it, I actually pissed it, you know. And the whole place was shocked because I was a Repton fighter. And at the end of the night, I got the Best Fighter of the Night award. Now, how can you be the Best Fighter of the Night award and lose the fight? Because obviously the other kid's got to be a better fighter than you, isn't it? So, and I got this cup called the Marksman's Cup. So one of my great memories of boxing is that. And the other one was I went defeated one year, I think 13 fights, and won all 13 when I just turned senior. And I got the John H. Tracy Cup. Yeah. And John H. is still a pal of mine today. You know, we're still good mates. He lives up in the Wirral now, up in Liverpool. But we stay in touch. And one of my proudest moments was actually receiving that cup, which I've still got it somewhere. I don't know where it is.
Do you remember, or what was the first fighter that you kind of took notice of as a kid?
That's a good question because, you know, we used to watch old films of Sugar Ray Robinson, Rocky Marciano. Robinson was absolute pure genius coming along. One of my favourite fighters as a young boy was Ken Buchanan, because he was a counter puncher and it's kind of my style, you know, and the way he used to move. Liked him a lot, and of course watching John H. when out in Mexico, but I was a little bit older there. I suppose my earliest loves of fighters would have been the old fighters, because that's the ones we used to watch, you know. And then you had fighters like Carlos Palomino come along, and it was a great fighter. And you had the middleweights, light welterweights at the time, you know, Sugar Ray Leonard, Thomas Hearns, Duran. I mean, talk about styles of boxing that actually fitted in one another to make great fights, you know. So for me, I would have been a little bit older at the time, but watching the Leonards of this world, I mean, Thomas Hearns was very chinny. He could go, but he could also knock you out, which made for a fantastic fight, you know. You never knew what you was going to get with Thomas, you know. But Leonard was another Robinson. He was another Sugar Ray Robinson, you know, because of the way he moved. Robinson could hit you with a left hook while you was going away from him and knock you out. It was, he would do things that weren't conventional. That for me, you know, watching fighters that go bing, 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 up, bum, 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 there's combinations. But Robinson would throw a punch from nowhere and knock your spark out. Now, a left hook is you come onto it. To hit someone with a left hook while they're going away from you and knock them out is something quite special, you know. What a fighter. You know, so I came up in a golden age of boxing, I suppose.
So the next question I'll ask you, and when I ask this to people who are in the boxing industry, so I'll kind of adapt it towards you. Have you ever thought about, if you weren't in the film industry, what you'd be doing now?
Yeah, I have thought about it, and I have no idea.
No clue at all?
No, I started when I was 17. I'm 65 now. It's hard to think that far back. I've been so lucky to be in the right place at the right time. And what I mean by that is, we'd had the kitchen sink dramas come along in the 60s and the 70s and all that. And I started around the end of about mid-70s, late 70s. And so it was kind of acceptable that they were looking at kids that came from that sort of world, rather than some chappie who'd come out of a drama college, you know, who was putting on a gall-blimey governor accent, you know. They were kind of using, it was more down to earth, you know, Saturday night, Sunday morning, was one of the stars. Look Back in Anger, those kind of films and plays that have been adapted for people like us, whether you was from Manchester, Liverpool, or from Ireland, or wherever. You know, this sporting life. You know, it was about us using people that came from those situations. So where my luck started, I came along at that kind of time, at about 78, 79. Although I went to college 75, I think it was 74, 75. But so I kind of fell into it, you know, and then I had to learn the job on the job. And I was lucky enough to have a director who took time to actually try and educate you and teach you a little bit, as much as he could, of how to go about your business, you know. And then you're lucky enough to get another job where you can take that to and then progress from that. And I found that the discipline of boxing stood me in good stead, because although I wasn't the greatest trainer in the world, that kind of discipline and being part of a group, because a boxing club, as you'll know, it becomes kind of a family where it doesn't matter about religion, it doesn't matter about anything else, it doesn't matter from where you are, what social standing you are, you become as one. It's a shame the world ain't run like that in a way, you know, because that kind of... So I was flung into a profession of what I like to call chappies, you know, and so there was very few like me about. It's a bit different today, you know, but there's very few like me about. So those kind of jobs that were coming along, I was being used up to a certain extent. And so I got a chance to actually learn more and more about the business.
Probably a really difficult one to answer, but I'll ask you anyway. Do you think that if your film career hadn't kind of gone the way, and it wasn't always smooth running for you, we've spoken about this before, but do you think that your boxing career could have developed if the other side to your life, the film side, hadn't gone as well as it did, or was that kind of... No.
I was all right. I was a good novice, although I had a lot of good fights. I don't think I had the killer instinct to be a fighter. I don't think I had the mentality to train like you need to train to be a fighter. You know, a bit lazy when it came to training, you know. The one time I did get really, really fit, I broke my finger in the semi-finals in the ABCs. Won the semi-final really easy. I broke my finger with the last punch of the fight. And I was going to box a kid called Walker. I think he was from Hogarth in the final. And I couldn't fight. It was the left hand. And I was all behind the jab, you know. Yeah. But I wanted to fight. Obviously, you want to fight. It's the final, you know. And my trainer said, even if you hadn't broke your finger, I want to let you fall. I went, why? He said, because this kid's an animal. But I said, well, yeah, but I'd have to fight. It was Tony Burns, you know. Yeah. In fact, I see him years later and he said to me, thank God you became an actor, Ray. I said, why is that, son? He said, because you was a terrible fighter. I wasn't a terrible fighter, but what he meant was I never would have been a pro. Yeah. I wasn't good enough to be a pro, you know. I actually sparred. I remember going down to spar at the Thomas and Beckett. We used to go down and spar with some of the pros at times, you know. And I was sparring with Jimmy Revy, and I was making a show called Fox at the time where I was playing a boxer. And I went and sparred with Jimmy Revy. Old Jimmy Revy, remember him? He was a fighter, good fighter. And I was dancing around and I was pinging him off, bump, ping, 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 ducking and diving, moving around and all that. And I thought, oh, this is lovely. He's a pro. I think he was European champion and all that. I was jabbing him off, lovely, lovely. All of a sudden he went crunch. He went, don't get too clever, son. It just put me right in my place, you know? The difference between, all right, I wasn't the greatest amateur in the world, but I was all right, you know? And that the pro, you know, whenever you like, you're going. You know, it's a different game.
When you was a kid, do you remember the first ever kind of serious either argument or fight you got into away from boxing? Do you remember the one of those moments or the first one?
Yeah,
sticking in your brain?
there was a few. I think, there's a few. I mean, when you're little, you always have a little tear-ups and all that.
Something stick in your mind though?
Not really. I mean, there was one at Southend years ago. I was down there. I think we nicked the girlfriends off the bouncers. It must have been about 16, 17. We nicked their guilt rings. Right, the bouncers' guilt rings, which was probably not the cleverest thing in the world to do, and they come tearing out the as we were having it on our toes with the girls because they were big lumps, and going down the road, and there was lumps of wood, and it all went a bit naughty. It weren't so much the fisticuffs. I'll tell you one that we ended up having it on our toes, right? But they were big ones, so we had to have lumps of wood, and we was clumping them, then we had it on our toes, and we still nicked the birds, which was a great
Still
thing.
got them and all?
Oh yeah.
Good sorts, were they?
Yeah, well, they were at the time. I don't know what they're like now. But one of the fights I saw, I used to work with my dad. My dad was a greengrocer. And we used to go Spitalfields Market on a Saturday. Because when I weren't at school, so on a Saturday, get up about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, you go to Spitalfields Market. And there was a big place there called The Cage, and there was the Blue Calf, which Victor Andretti used to own. I used to call him Uncle Victor. Right, who was a European champion, Vicky Andretti, and my dad's mate, one of my dad's old mates, and Dad was a bit of a fucker, you know. He was a good man, but he was a bit of a fucker. And I remember this fight. There was a guy called Simon, long hair, another guy, and they had a straightener outside the calf, and it went from the calf, into the cage where all the old methers used to sleep and that, you know. And they had this tear up, and when I say this straightener lasted 10, 12 minutes. That's a long time.
That is a very long time.
It's a long time to have a straightener, all right? They had one go on a penny, and the other one to let him up, and they'd go at it again, bosh, bosh, bosh. And at the end of it, both had a good fight, you know? And they shook hands, right? And everyone went into the Blue Calf, and they had bacon rolls and cups of tea, and they sat there on the chat. There's some honour in that. That was honour, you know, and it wasn't a boxing match. It was a full-on straightener, you know, and it's the last time I've ever seen anything like that. And I must have been about 16. I've seen straighteners since, but I've never seen one that went on like that one in the film The Quiet Man, you know.
Yeah.
That kind of goes on and on. And I thought, my God, that's something very, very special you've seen there, and that's honourable, you know. One to let the other one up. And they do it properly, like today. People want to stab people.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, they got no honour. It's gone. You know, to actually pick up a tool and stick it in someone, you know, over a row. It's not good. It's not the right way.
Normally over nothing as well.
It's all over bollocks.
Yeah.
If you really got a problem with someone you've never met before, who's never done any harm to you or your family, but you're having a row with them, have a straightener.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen. Doesn't happen anymore.
Ray, talk to me about a time in your life where you felt that you were fighting a losing battle.
Oh, is it related to boxing or?
No, I'd rather it not be.
Oh,
boxing,
fighting a
to be fair.
losing battle. I don't know. Ain't really in my head. There are no losing battles. I mean, I remember once boxing a guy and I couldn't realise why I kept getting hit. He kept hitting me, and I've never been hit that much in my life. And I suddenly worked out it's because he was a southpaw. You never boxed southpaws when I was a kid. Southpaws were changed in the gym. You know, there was a saying, you put down a southpaw at birth, you know, because they mess a fight up. And I remember getting caught, and then all of a sudden I caught him. He went on the penny. He got up, hit me, I went on the penny. And I kept thinking, why am I getting hit? And anyway, I got stopped, the only time I ever got stopped. I thought, what the fucking hell, how did that happen? And it was a southpaw. Never come across it before in my life. In life, it's really funny. I remember retiring from acting because I thought, I'm not really cut out for this. This was after Scum, and I hadn't worked for about 2 years, and I thought, you know what? It's not really my game. You know, I'm not really cut out. I don't talk like anyone else. I don't sound like an actor. I don't live like an actor. And I thought, and I didn't feel that I was being accepted as an actor, you know? So I was feeling a little bit sorry for myself, I guess. And I actually retired for about 2 years. And then I got a phone call from Alan Clark, who was remaking Scum. He said, and I needed a few quid. So I said, yeah, I'll do it. But I had no interest in doing it. I had no interest in going back to doing it at all. So without that phone call, I probably wouldn't be doing it today. But since then, you come up against brick walls, and I've always got this mentality, brick walls are put there to knock down, you know? And I think you have to have that kind of mentality a little bit, especially when you don't fit into something properly, you know? You're like a square going into a circle, you know? And that's how I felt. And maybe that's my fault. Maybe that's my inverted snobbery in a way, you know, that kind of... probably my excuse, making an excuse about why I'm not doing something, why I'm not getting there. And I've always been one that's kind of go, well, I'm not really that good, am I? You know, so I want to learn and I want to get better, but maybe that's the sort of level I'm at and that's all I'm going to be, you know? But I've never been ambitious to be anything big. I've never really craved that kind of stardom or to be somebody.
So how's it happened then?
Because I think it happened in a way because I didn't want it that much. I think sometimes you can over-try. I think when you're over-trying, you ain't learning too much. If you're concentrating on that more than actually trying to develop yourself a little bit better, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that.
I might be wrong, it's just, or I might just be lucky. And that's all right.
Is it a luck run for that amount of time though?
Not all the time. But you've got to take the rough with the smooth, haven't you, really? I mean, there's been tough times. You know, it's personally been tough times within family, you know, losses and things like that you never feel you can get over. But you have to sit down and have a look what's left and what you got to fight for and what you got to look after and nurture. So it's not easy sometimes, you know, and sometimes I think when you lose something that's very close to you, it can go two ways. You can either collapse or break apart, or it can toughen you up a little bit. I remember losing, when I lost my mum, I became like granite for about 2 or 3 years. I wouldn't suffer no one. I wouldn't suffer fools. But I went too far one way, you know. Got very angry about it, and wasn't very nice, you know, to be around. But that's hopefully with the people around you, that you come out of that, and that makes the one thing is you lose an emotion for a long while. You know, I find it very easy to cry. You know, not when I'm acting, in life. I remember driving home from Bristol after finishing robbing a Sherwood, and I just looked into the mirror, and I caught the sun going down behind me in the west, in the mirror, and I had to pull over to the side, and it's the first time I'd cried for 2 years after, you know, losing my mum, and I needed to do that because I was like that. But that ain't just me. Everyone goes through that, you know. Everyone goes through loss and disappointment, and it's how you come out the other end. And there ain't no book that tells you how to do that because we're all different, you know. We're all different. We all handle things in different ways.
At the age you're at now, 40, whatever you are,
65 I am.
what are the everyday battles in your life when you get up in the morning?
God, getting out of bed's a battle. I mean, I wake up probably 6 o'clock in the morning. That's the latest, because you want to go to the toilet. You want to have a wee. The other morning, I went to the toilet at 8 o'clock. I didn't get up till 9. That's the trouble. No, but that's the joke, right? But you do. You wake up early because you know everything's working in a different way now. I'd love to lay in bed till 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. Fantastic. I can't. Maybe it's from the market days, you know, working with my dad. But I'm like, bang, I'm up in the morning. And that's the best part of the day, they say. Well, yeah, I love it. Then you get up and your bones hurt, your hips hurt, I broke my back twice. Like when I say broke, I fractured, the spinal column. Once on a horse, and then I drove a motor off the top of a mountain, and landed like that, hit the roof, and done it again. So that took me a couple of years to get over. And then COVID, it attacks that, doesn't it? So although I felt all right myself with the COVID, the pain in my back and my ribs and all that was immense. I broke all my ribs, broke both ankles, and that's working as an actor, because you put everything into it when you're doing something. Ridiculous, really. I got hurt more being an actor than I did being a boxer. It's crazy, But every day, the battle is really just the aches and pains. And I don't take medication for it. The only medication I take is blood pressure tablets, which have been fantastic for me. But all this, legs and hips, and you find yourself, and I have to stretch out in the morning, I have a stretch and the calves and all that. And that's the only difference, really. Because I still inside me think I'm 17 until I start to move. And then I realise I'm not.
Is there a mental side to the battles in your life every day?
No, I wouldn't say so. As I said, I kind of lost an emotion, and I'm quite aware of it. When you've lost people, and that mentally that kind of makes you stronger in a way. But I don't know how much damage that does because you keep that locked up. And I think every now and then you have to release it. You have to. It's not easy talking to people about it, really. I've always been a bit mental, I think. A bit. How you going? But I don't kind of let it show. It's. I get upset and I can feel myself going down a slippery slope, and I know how to liven myself up. I think.
You kind of touched on this next question a little bit a few minutes ago, but when was the last time you've had to fight back tears? You said you're quite emotional and.
I don't fight them. No, you don't fight them back. When they come, and that's it.
Is that how you are?
Yeah. I mean, you don't want to be crying in the street, I suppose, and all that, But there's two types of tears. You said there's happiness. You can cry because you're happy, or you're watching a sad film. I mean, the old films always get me. Of course, I'm choking up. I don't want to show no one. But when you're upset, and I get upset over the kids. Really, if something's not quite going right with them, or and then it's almost like I get a bit angry about it. And what the fuck do you do? How do you go about this? Because although I've got 3 daughters, that everyone's an individual. You have to deal with it in a different way, and that can break your heart. And it's a good thing. Crying's a good thing because once you've done that, then you sit down and you can have a think about it and you can get it sorted out and do what you've got to do. But I don't see any problem with having a cry. I don't mind it. I actually quite like it. Do you know, it's the other emotion is I remember not being too well a few weeks ago, and don't mean to be horrible or anything like that, but I was being sick as a dog. I had this gastric bug, and I'll tell you how stupid and freaky I am sometimes. And I'm being sick, and I'm cuddling in the toilet. That image of cuddling, and you have an out of body experience. It's almost like you're looking down on yourself. And while I was being ill, I started laughing. I was laughing at the image of it all. Do you know what I mean? Right. And I don't mind that. It gets you through it. It's the funny side of it, Have
you ever cried over one of your films? Watching them back?
When they're bad, yeah. Yeah. No, I don't think so. Our Boy, there was a thing I done called Our Boy, which was a TV film about the loss of a child in a family. Me and Pauline Quirk done years ago. Yeah, I remember it, yeah. Cried over that a bit because it was beautifully done, and anything to do with being a dad. You know, you understand it. You know, that's everything. That's everything you live for. So, and that touches you. That really grabs hold of you. Yeah. I'm sure there's been other things. Yeah.
I don't mean this from any kind of physical sense, but where does your fight spirit come from? Because you're quite, I'm not going to refer to you as an alpha male, but you come across, but that's probably because...
That's the parts you play.
There's parts you play, but sometimes you get it into your head that is how Ray is, but we know that's not the case.
No,
But I think,
no. It's not the case. It's the best compliment you can have is when people say, "Well, yeah, but that's Ray, isn't it?" That's the best compliment because then your acting is all right. It's good because if they think that's me, they think that's me in Nil by Mouth. If they think that's me in the war zone,
job done.
Job done. Because if they think that is me, well, that's fine because you want to create in those sort of films. You want to create a reality. It's not about showing a performance, not in them type of films. Them type of films are for an audience to go, I'm actually watching real fucking life here.
Yeah.
This happens. You know, like in Scum and films like that. They have to be real. Otherwise, you've missed the whole sense of why you're making the film. We're making a film that make people aware that people live like this. You know? And so for me, the best compliment I can get when someone says, "Yeah, but I'm only watching you." Yeah. Oh yeah. Good. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's not an acting performance, is it? No. No, it ain't. That's not me going, "Oh."
That's mad. That's so true, though, what you're saying.
Yeah, that's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
It doesn't work on every film because there's certain film. Like I've just done a film called Damsel for Netflix with Millie Bobby Brown. And Angela Bassett plays my wife.
Oh, wow.
Good lot. My life, proper girl.
Great actress.
Really good girl. And they're both good girls. But it's a fairy story, you know, it's about dragons and things like that. You know, and so that's when I have a problem because I have to then look at it and what we're doing, what's the genre of this? This ain't a guy who's there going around. You bring a bit of that to it because I'm playing a father of a princess, you know. But at the same time, you've still got to sell this thing as being this wonderful fantasy, you know? So, and that's something I had to learn along the way because going from Scum and a teacher like Alan Clark where everything is real, when you come to do some of these other genres, you've got to learn how to go, "Oh, hold on a minute. It's not about putting snooker balls in a sock and whacking someone around the head, you know. This is about selling a story, selling a fairy story across, you know. So there are different genres and I'm still learning now what they are.
Do you feel like in your life you've ever had to fight demons?
Yeah, I think to a certain extent. One of them was probably, as I've mentioned earlier on, was, am I right for this industry? You know, I'm a kid out of Plasto. You know, talks like that. All right, how you going? You know, and I'm in a world of, you know, theatre and all that, where everyone's a little bit more. That was my hang up, and I had to get rid of that out of my head a bit lively. You know, it takes time.
The stereotype?
I stereotype myself probably, which I fought against doing that, but that's difficult. All you can do is get a job and play it differently, or play it reality, or play it how you're going to play it, but play it well. It doesn't always happen that way. You know, sometimes you make a right boo-boo, and I've done that, you know. Fighting demons, yeah, you know, you get involved with silly things along the way, as kids do, you know, and one day you wake up, if you're lucky enough to go, I ain't doing that no more. You know, and that, whether that's drugs, drink, or whatever. I mean, I love a drink, you know, but I got this inner fear about it, and I think having grandchildren and children kind of brings you back to reality a little bit because you want to live to see them grow up. Now, if I was on the piss like I was at a certain point, I didn't need to go to AA and all that. Some people do. Because I don't need to be. I'm not there for a club. I'm there. I'm doing what I'm doing for my kids. So you go. And if you want to drink, you want to drink. I had a mate of mine who hasn't drunk now for 16 years. I think it is probably a bit longer. We phoned up one day, and I was going out to see him. He was living out in another country, and he said, when you come out, he says, I'll have a drink with you. I went, no, you won't. He went, what? I said, you ain't fucking blaming me for you having a drink. I said, you don't want to drink, don't drink. Anyway, he phoned me up about a year later, and he said, and he was in a bit of a state, and he said, I said, what's the matter? And he said, I got really drunk last night. And I said, yeah, and? He said, well, I've wasted 15 years of... I said, no, you ain't. You had a drink. I said, you've been clean for 15 years, you had a drink last night. I said, and tomorrow you won't have a drink. He went, no. He said, but... I said, no. I said, you wanted to have a drink, you had a drink. End of. Now, he had to stop drinking because it chemically affected his nut. And he became a very naughty, nasty person. Without booze, he's blinded. Usually you can tell a person who's drunk, if they're a horrible person, they're an horrible person when they're sober and all. Don't ever worry about that, right? But there's certain people who've got a chemistry inside them where they have booze and it affects them in another way. So I don't need... AA does a wonderful job, but I don't need to do that. Because if I want to drink, I'm going to have a drink. And if I don't want to drink, I don't want to drink because I've got 3 daughters and a grandson. That's it. I'm going to have a drink this afternoon now.
Something I've been talking to people, like especially boxers, about is whether their profession, as in within the sport, has contributed to any points of depression in their life. But for yourself, being in the acting industry for, 4 or 5 decades now, you've been in it, have you been in a situation where you've had to go through depression?
I don't know. It's a good question because as I go back to loss, loss can take you down that slippery road. It depends who you got round you, you know, who you got talking to you, who your family is, and who your friends are. And I think depression is a funny thing. You can be upset. It don't mean to say you're depressed. You can be depressed and not know it. How do you know?
So true.
How do you know if you're depressed? I don't know. I probably have been depressed in times and wouldn't know it. You know, Mr. Angry, you know, got the hump with the world. Is that depression or is that just unhappy for the moment? What's the line between unhappy and depression? You know, I think in a way, without knocking anything that's going on today, I think there's some great stuff going on about, you know, mental health and all that. But we talk about it so much, it's almost like it convinces you've got mental health or you're depressed. And I'm sure that's correct in a lot of ways, but I don't think it's as simple as that. You know, I mean, I have a row with you now. Me and you have a row. I walk out here with a hump. Am I depressed? No, I'm just upset. So I don't think we're clinically able to actually say that. I mean, you've got to be some sort of top doctor to be able to tell you whether you're depressed or you're just upset. And I think all these things, I go on, you know, you go on Instagram and all that, and you go, mental health, and there's some good people out there trying to do the right things, you know. But it's kind of installed into us now, you know. The moment we feel a little bit down, God, it's part of our makeup. It's what we are. It's what maketh the man or the woman. The strength to come through that. And you do need a bit of help at times. And you do need friends. And you do need family to talk to you about that. But, you know, there's also the fact of, you know, you're depressed. Well, I'm even going to work. I'm going to feel fucking worse now. Oh, no, I'm depressed. You know, I've been told I'm depressed, so I'm going to get even worse, you know. I don't know what the answer is. I'm not smart enough or clever enough to know the answer to that question. I just think we've got to be very careful how we deal with that subject, you know.
Yeah, I spoke to the promoter Eddie Hearn about this. It's not something that we speak about in our day-to-day interviews. So it was good to get his take on and this. And he said that, like, does he have bad days? Absolutely. Yeah. Does he have days where he doesn't want to get out of bed and it's like, fuck the world? Absolutely. Have I had suicidal thoughts? No. Would I call it depression? No, I wouldn't. It's just like you have bad moments in your life, and he can kind of tell the difference. But you're right. I think there are some people out there that kind of get into a bad point in their life where, again, because it's being told that this is what it is, then they think that that's what it is, which kind of then takes the focus off the people that actually are depressed.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
I think it does. I've never felt suicidal. Doesn't mean to say I haven't been depressed. You know, to be suicidal, you have got to be in a real bad way. You know, a real bad state of mind to actually want to take your life, your own life. So, I don't know. I know I've never felt suicidal. Maybe after a couple of defeats West Ham have had lately, you know, sometimes it makes me feel a bit suicidal, but not to that extent. And all jokes aside, I think it's something that needs a specialist, not just people talking online about it, you know, because it's a very, very important subject that we don't know enough about.
So, for yourself, Ray, obviously, I don't mean this in terms of, a physical aspect, but you fight for your family and your daughters and your wife, etc. Who's there for you, though? Who's in your corner?
They are.
They are. Reverse, yeah.
Absolutely, that's family.
Yeah.
They've got to be, I hope so, anyway. Yeah, that's family. That's what it is. Not just your family and all, you know, you're really close mates. I've got mates I grew up with, you know, who I've got very few mates that are in my profession, to be honest with you. Not because I don't like them, we just don't see one another, you know. Because they're off working, you're off working, and that's the way it is. But my mates I grew up with, you know, I more than on one hand, you know, that I've known more or less all my life, you know, and they know you probably more than your family do, you know, they know when something's up. And it's like a second sense, they phone up, you all right? What do you mean, am I all right? Yeah, of course I'm all right. Yeah, I just thinking, yeah, that's all. Yeah,
They're the ones.
Yeah, no.
They're the ones.
So it's, if you're lucky enough to have that network, in a way, you don't really need much more, you know?
I've heard you in the last, 20 minutes, make reference to the people that are around you and how important that is. And it's shouldn't be underestimated that good people around you could be the difference of what happens in your life if you're feeling low, etc., etc. Having them the right people around you.
Right people around you. And if you've got the age of 65 and you don't know who they are, you're in trouble. Because you do know. You know by then, you know.
At 65, Ray, what actually drives that fight within you? What is it that makes you get up every day to...
Taxman. You got to pay the taxman. God, I'd love to retire. I'd love to go lay on the beach somewhere and all that. You can't. You pay your tax. And usually you're a year behind. So you have to keep going to work. I mean, that's the honest answer. You know? Do I want to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go work on a film? Not really. I've done it. I've done it now. But, having said that, you'll get offered something and you go, which is very far and few between, but go, wow, I'd like to be a part of that. That gets you going again. That really gets you bubbling again, you know, saying really good. I had a phone call the other day off of, I'm not going to say who it is because, you know, it might not happen. It's silly, but I don't want to put him in a position. But I'm thinking, you know what we spoke about 20 years ago? I was thinking of doing that. And this is probably one of the best directors I've ever worked with, right? You fancy it? You up for it? Yeah, of course I'm up for it. You're working with great people, good people, who you trust and be round. That's fine, you know. And how much money do you want to earn? I mean, how much money at the end of the day do you really want to go and get? You want to retire with 35, 40 million pound in the bank? No, you just want enough money to live. You know, I'm 65. I want the kids now. It's their turn to go and do. You know, a lot. It's like when I come along. I as a kid, You know, we started doing the things, and some of the old boys were left aside and were getting smaller parts. Well, that's happening now to me, and quite rightly so. That is a circle. That's how it works. The new generation come through, and they're better than us because they've got to be. If they ain't learned nothing from us, then there's pointless them doing it. You know, so fantastic. So I still work. I still go and graft, do my little bit, bum bum bum, in, bush and out. Lovely. It's the way the world works, and I'm really happy with it. But the honest answer is, I go back. I go to work because I pay my tax, and that's what you have to do to keep it all going.
So if I was to take any financial answer out of that,
Yeah.
there must be something else, Ray, that makes you still want to still be doing what you're doing at 65.
As I said, for that one moment where
Yeah.
something comes along that's, you go, well, oh yeah. You know, I understand this. I want to get my teeth into this, and I really want to go to work with this. You know, and exciting new young directors. I've always been one of those that work with first time directors. I've worked with loads of them through the years. I like that because they don't know the rules, they break them, and they make up their own rules, and they invent things because they don't know what it is, and that's exciting to go to work with. Some old boy who's been doing it all his life, no disrespect, who's fantastic at what they do, they've done it all. You know, they turn up, they know it. So it's all done really quickly, and you don't see the process. When you're working with a young kid who's thinking it out, going through it and doing it, you're learning something. And that for me is like, yeah, it's going to work. That's probably going to work.
I don't want to grill you too much on this phone call, but is this something to do with a sequel? Or can't you say?
I ain't telling you. Mind your own business, Coog.
Sexy Beast 2?
No. They're doing a TV programme of it.
Are they?
They're doing a series of, I'm not sure it's Netflix, but it's been done up in Liverpool, filmed in Liverpool. Yeah, I'm not sure the writers are the same writers. I think they might have something to do with the production side of it, but they're making it up there now. Stephen Moyer's in it, who directed a little film I done in Ipswich last year. It is last year now, called A Better Light, and that was a very small. That was during COVID. We made it with I think it was about 28 people on the crew, really small crew, you know. And I loved it. You know, it was like, man, it was like we used to make films, you know, on the off. It was like guerrilla warfare. Yeah, we need a shot. Oh, we can't afford it. We'll do the shot anyway. Fuck it. Get on with it. It was terrific. You know, it gives you that little buzz again. You know.
Okay. Well, Ray, listen, I appreciate you coming on here and doing this podcast, Raw the Fight Within. Just before we do finish, though, obviously I'll kind of keep up to date with you on your Instagram, which you're getting more and more used to as the months roll on. You're doing stuff with, obviously, Integral as well. I just wanted you to talk a little bit about that as well.
Well, Integral, I mean, I don't know whether we discussed it before, but it really came from Gary Petit, you know, who's a mate of mine who I met probably now about 25 years ago, probably maybe a bit less, over West Ham. And it's really unusual because all my mates are old mates, as I told you, but, you know, I weren't looking for any more new mates. I don't need no new mates, you know. And but we're very like-minded, you know, in the way we view things and the way we are, in a way. And his boy was playing for West Ham, and we went over there, watched him play for, you know, the youth side and all that. And they're all good players. All these kids are good players. They've got to be there, you know. Any kid who's at a club has got to be useful in some sort of way. And we went over there and watched it. And as it transpired, West Ham let him go. But what happens at these clubs is you get, if you've got 44 kids on your books, about 40 of them get released. You know, they might keep 4, and they might keep 2, and they might keep 6. But what happens to them 40 kids? Where do they go? Now, some of them maybe have a family where they can place them or look after them, because this is their dream. The dream is, for a kid at the age of 16, 14, 15, 16, is to be a footballer. That's their dream. And all of a sudden, at 16, their dream's gone. It's finished. At 16 years of age, you go, I didn't think too much about it, but me and Gary were talking. He went, now, Casey's very lucky. He's got a dad who who can manoeuvre him, and he got him into Millwall. But where was all these kids? And then we looked into it, and there's kids committing suicide. There's kids that go back to the estate who get onto other things. Skullduggery, because their dream is over. And he said, well, and Gary said, oh, well, I'm going to set up an agency. He said, and I'm going to look after. And I went, yeah, all right. He said, do you want to be involved? I went, no, not really. I said, I've got a million things to do. And the more we talked about it, the more it kind of made sense in a way. And I thought, well, you know what? I'm doing what I do, but what else do I actually do? What do I put back? You know? And we started actually talking about it, and said, well, as an agency, you're not going to get Declan Rice come to you. You're not going to get top players, and we can't stop thinking of it as an agency as such, because you're going to build something here, and it's going to take maybe 4 to 5 years, of building something up, of credibility. So it started off with football players, and we with Casey, and then Flynn Clark. We started getting all these kids in, and then we had connections in Ireland and in Wales, and then we got kids started coming to us, and we've got about 21 young internationals now, kids who weren't being placed in certain areas, who maybe wouldn't have become footballers, maybe would have gone back to whatever they were doing. And then from there, we were approached then. It's funny how you're approached, because we were approached more than we were approached anyone else. By golfers, by jockeys. And we started falling into this pattern where, and this is not just guys, this is girls. We've got lady jockeys, we've got lady footballers, and tennis players. And they're all kids. So we kind of found ourselves building up a stable of the next generation. Now, as an agency, you've got to run that financially. It's got to work financially, which is a very difficult thing to do, because you have to bring staff in. Staff have to be paid, which has been covered. So we've got great like-minded people running the business. We've got like-minded people who have invested in the business, and we're going from strength to strength. Now, we're getting to a stage where our young stable is coming to a mature level. Yes, so, and we've got a good set of, I guess, not sponsors, but investors that are like-minded people to us, who a lot of them are in the city, which helps. So they know what they're investing in. So it's a company that's growing. We're not trying to change the world. We're just trying to give these kids a chance at fulfilling their dreams, which I was lucky enough to do. And I don't see why. I look around the country, and clubs have no setups where the afterlife of a kid who they've had on their books since probably sometimes from the age of 7 to the age of 16, and I let go, that they can look after these kids. And I guess at the end of the day, they'd say, well, we take the strongest minded kids. But sometimes that's not the case. Man Cities and the Liverpools of this world can afford, I guess, to take more players on than a club in the second division or the first division or the championship. And I understand they're looking for the strongest players. And maybe it's not the job of the club to do that. That's for debate. But we're trying to do something. We're not trying to change the world. We're just trying to do something a little bit different, and to give these kids a second chance. After all, I mean, some kids at the age of 16 don't mature till they're 19 years of age or 21 years of age anyway. So I'm very proud to be involved in this in a way. It's something I never thought I would be involved in. I'm not an agent. I'm a founder member, and it makes me very proud to be that, and to kind of oversee it along with Gary. I think he's doing a wonderful job, and it's slowly we've learnt more about the business as we've gone through it. So we're kind of learning learning on foot, if you like, on the tap. So, and we've got so many more kids that are hearing about us that are coming and being involved. So, I think we're at a stage now where a lot of our first kids that came in are ready to mature to go on to the next step, which is playing for the first team. They're playing for internationals already, under 21s for Ireland, Scotland and England. We have players at Aston Villa, at Man City, and my God, we've got some young golfers coming through that are wonderful, tennis players, which are tremendous, and we're even into the cricket. The boxing we've kind of left alone. It's a funny old sport, boxing. It's one-on-one, but it comes with an entourage of people that can probably do the job that we'd be asking to do anyway. So boxing's something we haven't really touched on, and maybe it's not the right sport for us, but who knows? Who knows what the future will bring?
Well, like I said, we see you on your social media posting about it, but it's good to get some actual context from yourself about it. I think we have spoken about it before a couple of years ago, but I suppose, it's been 2 years since then. So, yeah. Well, listen, thank you again for coming on this podcast.
My pleasure. It's actually been interesting for a change. Well, I hope so.
For a change?
Yeah, well, not with you, but other people. I don't want to upset you, do I?
No. You have to, do you direct films still?
No. I thought about directing, and I thought, well, it's 2 years of your life. Because, it's the prep, the actual filming, the work on the script, and then the post. And it's the worst way, it's 2 years of your life. And sometimes it takes you 7 years to get the film started anyway. So, I don't know what the future brings. I wouldn't write it off. I'd love to have a go at something. I've got an idea for something, but we'll see.
My follow-up question from that was, if you direct a film, can you just stick me in the back somewhere?
You're there.
I don't even really want to talk.
You'll be there.
I just want to go. Did you see Coogan in the Ray
Don't
Winston
hold
film?
your breath. It might not happen.
Ray, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and thank you for listening to Raw, The Fight Within with me, Kugan Cassius. We will see you next week. Make sure you comment, like, and subscribe. And Ray, thank you again. God bless.
God bless.
I'm going to share something with you that might put me in a very negative light,
Relationships are not my forte.
See if someone grabbed up my wife or something completely different ballgame.
I'll walk away from here, and this has been like a therapy session.